Part 2 of most common UK NHS interview questions about to be served. Piping hot. And if you have not watched part 1, please do so. And you will be glad you did. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Now, if placed to care for a 93-year-old woman, yeah, or a man with type 2 diabetes, dementia, or Alzheimer's, and a suspected stroke, what information will you need? What do you think the answer to that? My name is Kesienaakwaraatie, a health and social care trainer. To all of you, my old and new returning subscribers, and of course, my wonderful mentees, you guys are so loved. Thank you all so much for your support, okay? And hey, if you are just watching this channel for the first time, what are you waiting for? Join this ever-growing awesome family, okay? Where I talk about everything care and how you can excel as a carer, a senior carer, or a healthcare assistant. And guess what? You will be glad that you did. So do us a favor, smash the subscribe button, yeah? Give me a thumbs up by liking the video. And don't forget to click on that all-important notification bell. So whenever I upload a new video, you, my dear, will be among the very first to know. Freely as well connect with me on Instagram, Care by Kes, Twitter, Care by Kes, and TikTok, Caring Kes. And as usual, I'll see you there. All right. So if you heard the first question, what will be your answer to that? Now, for you to get all the information you need, you will have to ask for her. Or you could ask for her medical history or her care plan, because that's where everything you need to know about the person, how to care for the 93-year-old woman, would be in. Okay. Now, second question. What do you understand by confidentiality? Very important. Because as a caregiver or a carer, GDPR, okay, sums up confidentiality. So you are not to discuss your patient with anybody. Only those who are in the, who are caring for them with you are to know. And it's not supposed to be in a public place. It has to be in a private place, okay? Now, the other question is, if you see a colleague giving inappropriate care to a patient, what would you do? Now, the idea of, oh, is my friend, is my sister, we're from the same country, we speak the same language, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to care, there is no, professional treatment or whatever you call it. If you see your colleague giving a client or a patient inappropriate care, what do? You intervene. You say, oh, can I, step in and do this? I'll do it for you. Then you take your colleague outside and you tell them, oh, this thing that you did is not very right. Okay? And then you also need to let the line manager know. And you don't say, oh, like you're reporting her in a negative way. No, oh, I saw so doing something. Is it possible for her to be retrained in this aspect? Why? Because if you keep quiet, and it is discovered you knew this colleague of yours was manhandling this particular patient, and you said nothing, you will also be entrapped or ensnared into the whole thing. You'll be blamed as well. Does that make sense? You'll be blamed because they will think you were also doing it as well. That's a risky thing you don't want to do. Okay? Now, another question would be, how would you settle a quarrel or dispute between your colleagues and a patient? Now, this one is tricky. Now, you shouldn't side your colleague because the patient will see that you guys are ganging up against them. So I won't answer this question for you. I want you to think about it. And remember that whatever your answer will be, you must be diplomatic. Remember, the customer is always right. Okay? Now, you could ask a question. If your manager asks you to do something that is against the working ethics of the trust you work with, what would you do? Would you say, oh, I'm going to get you today? Would you become vindictive? Or would you say to her, which I think should be your answer, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know if you're aware, but this is against the company, is against rather the trust's, ethics. And I wouldn't want us to get into trouble. Why? Because both of you are doing this together. And I want to believe that a right-thinking manager would say, oh, thank you for that, I forgot. Does that make sense? Okay, because whether you like it or not, they see your manager. Yeah? You could also be asked simple mathematical questions, plus and minus. Okay. Now you could be asked, for instance, that your patient takes 250 ml of a particular medication, 250 ml milligrams. Now, and they need to take it 4 times a day. So how many will that be? So you should be able to do your calculation fast in your brain and give them an answer. And what I would suggest in some cases is that if it's on a Zoom, you want to have a pen and paper with you. So if you have questions like this that you require mathematical skills, you quickly, do your calculations on there as well. All right. Now, what other questions do I have for you guys? Okay. Now, how would you support a new colleague at work? How would you support him or her? Would you be willing to divulge all the information you know as to help them settle in? Or would you be holding some back, wanting to see how well they would do? Now, if you ask me, I will say that if you have a new colleague at work, remember how you were treated. Now, if you are treated badly, does not mean you should do the same thing to your new colleague. No. Because I hear people say all the time, oh, this was how I was treated. It is wrong. Because you were treated like that does not mean that you should treat people like that. Be the bigger person. So what you do, you help them, assist them, and you make yourself available that if you have any questions, please ask. Why? Because, again, teamwork. You have already said that you're a team player, and a team player would help any colleague they see who is struggling to settle in, if that makes sense. Okay? Now, you could be asked, how well can you function in a team? Remember, team player. So how well will you function in a team? I'll leave you to answer that. But please, make sure your answers also align with the values of the trust you are going to work in, or you are going to be interviewed in. All right? You could be shown pictures of people with different illnesses and be asked to identify what illness that they have. Now, this could range from people that have dementia or living with dementia or Alzheimer's. Now, how can you identify them? Some of them don't have dentures, and when your denture is out, is the way your mouth looks. Some could have multiple sclerosis. How would you be able to identify multiple sclerosis? They're usually bent because it's all about the bones, isn't it? So they're usually bent. You could be asked to identify somebody that has Down syndrome. Of course, you would know from the almond-shaped eyes, okay, and the flat bridge of the nose and all of that. You could also be asked for someone who has Parkinson's. You would know because the tremors. So if you think you're going to be asked kind of questions, you want to have a look at pictures of people who have different ailments so that you'll be able to identify the correct one and say what it is. Yeah, if that makes sense. Okay. Also be asked if you have a dementia patient or a confused patient struggling to get out of bed, what would you do? Now, in this regard, you must understand that people with dementia are a bit, it's not their fault. It's an illness. You have to communicate with them effectively so that you understand what is the urgent need that they have, and see how you can, try to get them to pacify them, if I may say so. Okay? Get them to be calm. Like I always say to people, the way you communicate with your patients or client determines how they're going to be receptive to whatever you say to them. So they're struggling to get out of bed. You could ask, oh, how can I help you, dear? What do you want? Can I help you with assistance? Would you like something? Would you like a cup of tea or something? And if they do, they will tell you. If they tell you they want to go home, which is what they usually say, you can say, okay, how about we'll go for, a little tour of the place. Get them in a wheelchair, put them in the wheelchair, take them around. The more you try to make what they need or what they are saying unimportant, not urgent, the more they'll be insistent. Now, from experience, particularly in care homes and nursing homes, the more you disregard what they are saying, the more they become insistent. Now, that can lead to some aggression. You don't want that. Your duty is to calm them down, reassure them however possible. And so the onus is on you to understand as many patients as are kept in your care. So you know how to give them personalized or person-centered care to meet all their needs, if that makes sense. And then we have, I think about the last question that I have here today is, give an experience where you had difficulty with a patient's language because he or she can't speak English. Now, explain how you were able to communicate with the said individual. This will answer that question. You could say, okay, well, because you don't understand what they're saying, you could get a translator if the trust has a translator. One, you could ask Google. Okay. Two, you could demonstrate. I hope these questions, I think so far I have about maybe like 18 or 20 of them I've asked you, part one and part two put together. Now, I hope with these questions, you'll be able to scale through your NHS interviews. And I wish you all the very best, okay? So until I see you in my next video, guys, never you forget that no matter what the matter is, you matter so much more. Au revoir.